I forgot to put the camera up facing outwards from our beautiful studio here high above Rogers Arena. That's my bad. This is the Canucks conversation as we cut from a black screen. I set Alex up for failure on that one. That's my bad.
I set you up for failure because as we were getting ready to go, I still had these lovely little potatoes I have for lunch. I had one of those in my mouth, and I was just frantically pointing at you and saying, "You got to go, you got to go, you got to do the intro." But I have a clear mouth, a clear mind, ready to talk some Vancouver Canucks. So we should mention this is the Canucks Conversation podcast. Yeah. My name is Dave Quadrelli. I'm joined as always by the man who built the place, Chris Faber. Our technical producer today is Alex Allard. We're here to talk about a lot of Vancouver Canucks things, but before we do that, we got to talk about the great folks over at Montana's because we are brought to you by those wonderful people over at Montana's. They've got daily deals on their new comfort menu. I'm trying to do this completely from memory. Monday is half-price wings.
Yep.
Tuesdays, Taco Tuesday.
Yeah, we know Tuesday is the taco
$5 for a meaty taco. It is confirmed by Canucks Conversation to be a meaty taco.
Rumor on the street is a bite of that taco is the same as a bite out of an elephant.
Wednesday, all-you-can-eat ribs. Thursday, and everyday daily drink deals. And Sunday, 15% off online takeout. We did an emergency podcast yesterday. That was our initial reaction to the firing of Bruce Boudreau, Chris. But
Alex
today
actually has some news. We should get to the news that Alex has. He's got the audio that I want to get to, because we are about to talk about some news around the Vancouver Canucks.
Sure.
Alex, you got this queued up here? You can run this, and I'll just stop talking if you have it ready to go. If not, I'm just going to keep talking. But let's hear about the news.
Former Washington Capitals coach Bruce Boudreau has been fired by the Vancouver Canucks. The team announced the change Sunday, less than a week after President of Hockey Operations Jim Rutherford said major surgery was needed to fix the Canucks. Rick Tocchet.
Rick Tocchet.
I feel bad because there's a lot of times where I screw up names for sure, right? But listen, I went to broadcasting school, right?
Yeah,
I graduated. You didn't. I did, so I'm smarter than you in certain degrees. And one of them is how to pronounce words, which is why my word of the days. A lot of the times, like today, where sometimes we do a show and a little bit of behind the scenes thing here. So we have like our outline, right? And a lot of times in the outline, you don't know anything about this, but what I know about the outline is that I put a lot of stats in there that I want to get to, a lot of things that I think need to be mentioned. There's not a lot today in our first two segments here. We're going to talk about bye-bye Bruce. Frank Seravalli is going to join us in about 12 minutes time. But what I always do, okay, maybe you got to help me. What's it called when you spell out the words the way they sound?
Phonetically.
Phonetical spelling or whatever. That's how I do it, so I know how I'm talking with these words here.
Okay.
And today's word, great. There's two definitions of today's word. I'm going to give you the second one because this is not the way that I'm going to use it.
Don't give them the definition.
Okay. It's just it's very fitting.
We actually have some stuff to get to. Believe it or not, there's a new coach, Chris.
We just heard the reporter talking about it there. Yeah.
We just got back from Canucks practice. My hat's all messed up. I was in the Canucks locker room.
Yeah, let me go off on a tangent first. This whole 11:45 practice thing, this better not be something that sticks, okay? Because this is going to make this show extremely difficult to prep for, having to go down there, get one player interview, not be able to talk to the coach. I don't know, something's going to have to change with somebody's schedule, and I don't want it to be ours. Hey, so I hope the Canucks are back to those 10 a.m. practices. That's nice. Lots of prep time before the show. We were rushed up here today. I didn't even get the video up of Rogers Arena. And I'll tell you, let me explain the view to people. It's not gorgeous today. There's a lot of steam coming out of Rogers Arena today, more than usual, and it's foggy. There it is, right there.
Okay, enough. Okay, I got a couple things here. I went to practice and I asked the hard-hitting questions. I'm not trying to criticize anybody in the media, but I'm just saying nobody asked Colin Delia about Fartgate. And granted, this is partly because goalies don't talk on game days. Ian Clark goaltenders don't talk on game days.
I should have asked Jim Rutherford when we had him yesterday. I should have got the president's opinion. Was that a fart on the broadcast?
Follow up all your serious. Good job at the press conference, by the way, with Patrick Alvin. We'll get to that in a sec. But I asked Delia about Fartgate. I said, hey, did you see this? And beside him, Spencer Martin just starts laughing. I thought I was going to have to show him the video. They knew all about it. Spencer sent it to Colin that night, and they were laughing about it. And I said, so Colin, was it your skate? And he goes, well, I actually did fart. But no, he did admit. He said, yes, it was my skate. And then Spencer said, yeah, I've been talking about it. They were talking about how Delia's skate makes that sound. Literally at morning skate, they were talking about it. It was Spencer making fun of Demmer and Colin, that they have those farty skates, fart stops. That's what Spencer called it.
Okay.
So story soon on Canucks Army.
I heard this from somebody in the Canucks production as well. That corner that he slid into, because this is the big news. I'm glad you wanted to spend 5 minutes on this. That corner that he slid into, that's exactly where the mic is that picks up the sounds from the rink.
Yeah, I think this is our clip.
All that
this is our clip for the old YouTube. Subscribe to Canucks Army on YouTube.
Is there any other news that you want to get to?
No, I think that's the only thing I did at practice was ask Delia about that.
Literally is. Okay. Rick Tocchet's in. Bruce Boudreau's out. I think we spent a lot of time on the emergency show with our initial reaction of it. Had some time to let it breathe a little bit, see where we're at. Now we've seen a practice with Rick Tocchet. There was definitely some drills that we've never seen done before with this new coach coming in. There was a lot of conversations being had between Adam Foote, Sergei Gonchar, the defenseman. I saw it looked like those guys are in a big group there together. We saw Gonchar having some conversations with Quinn Hughes, kind of working on some shoulder leaning things, where to lean his puck. I kind of just, the way he was pointing at parts of the ice and explaining where he wanted Quinn to lean, certain things like that. So nice to see. Hopefully that's a relationship that grows. Sergei Gonchar is a great defenseman. I'd like to see him work with Quinn Hughes to help improve. And I know people are like, but you want to see him improve his defense. Okay, maybe Adam Foote can help. And also Sergei Gonchar, I don't think was a bad defender either. So you're going to see a little bit of a different feel from the practice. And today was a long one, right? This practice went for an hour long. This wasn't one of these 20-minute ones like we've seen in the past. But I don't know. Do we want to spend some time here on Bruce Boudreau, or do we do enough on the emergency?
I think,
because we haven't done it on the YouTube. So
I think we did enough on Sunday. I think there's more than enough discussion about Bruce Boudreau on the market right now. He didn't get treated fairly, all that sort of stuff. And we're not saying that's not the case or anything like that. We're just, I think it's been exhausted to the point of where nobody really wants to hear about it anymore. I will say, if you can pay attention to more than one coaching situation, Daryl Sutter's antics after Jacob Pelletier's NHL debut. Did you see this?
Yep.
He's asked about Pelche, who made his NHL. Yeah, like I said, NHL debut, young kid. And Sutter, I guess he's making some sort of joke of it or whatever, puts on his eyeglasses, his readers, looks at the stat sheet, asks the reporter what number Pelche was, and reads out Pelche's stat line. It's like, look, I get it. You're old school and you're like a dick to young players. Like, I get it, but I don't know. That team's not winning games. I think it's fine to do that once in a while if you're winning games, and that's Daryl's thing. That team's not winning games, and I look at him as a big reason why that team's not winning games. How is Jonathan Huberdeau? We're not going to spend too much time talking about the Flames, but everybody in the Calgary market, it seems like, and I'm not trying to criticize anybody, but it seems like everybody's scared of Daryl. And look, it's easy to say from Vancouver, like, oh, why are they scared of this guy? But it's like, come on, like. I don't know. I would like to think that if he was in this market, he would be getting criticized for that. And there's not much criticism aside from fans on Twitter, it seems like, in the Calgary market.
Yeah, true. I don't know. Those Alberta markets, the media is very different over there.
They are very different. They
very
are
much, I don't know.
Yeah, we're not going to start criticizing other markets, but let's just say when we became media, we throw out our jerseys.
Maybe it's more fun to cover a better team. Maybe you like to cheer for the team.
Okay, whatever.
Anyways,
that's not going to fly here. Tell you that much.
I don't think so. Okay, so let's discuss it. Rick, because we did the emergency episode yesterday before the press conference available, so I think that's where we should start. And by the way, like I said, Frank Seravalli is going to join us about 5 minutes time. We're going to talk about the stuff with obviously with Boudreau, Tocchet, as well as the latest trade stuff. There's a lot of guys that are still, it's weird. It felt like this blanket got kind of thrown over the actual trade situations for the Vancouver Canucks for a week here, which I don't know, maybe good for the players to not have to worry about or answer so many questions. But we've talked about this. I spent a lot of time talking about this yesterday on the emergency podcast. I don't think my thoughts have changed a lot on the whole Bruce Boudreau situation. I think it was handled incorrectly. I think Jim Rutherford coming out and having an apology towards Bruce Boudreau and how he handled the situation was fair, and I think warranted as well. You talk about players like deserving respect for what they've done in their past, coaches deserving respect for what they've done in the past. I think Bruce Boudreau deserved more respect than he got from the Vancouver Canucks with how this situation was handled. But it's like you said, and I see some people in the comments. Zabero says, I'm sick of hearing about Bruce's feelings, so maybe we won't spend much time on this. We can talk about the press conference.
Zabero there.
Yeah, and I think there has been there's a ton of content out there. CanucksArmy.com. Check it out. Our episode from yesterday, if you want to just check it on the podcast, check it out. Lots of time spent there if you do want to hear about Bruce Boudreau's feelings. But anything, you start this. What do you want to start from yesterday's press conference that had Jim Rutherford, Patrick Allvin, and Rick Tocchet there to speak to us? Where do you want to start? What was the biggest takeaway?
Rutherford's not going to do public appearances anymore for the most part.
He's going to zip it,
He's going to zip it. Alvin, I liked that you asked your question twice to him because he spent 6 minutes not answering it the first time. So I like that you kind of pitched the same question to him about, the market and everything like that. I think Rick Tocchet,
you know what I was trying to play his game, right? Yeah. I asked a question. I didn't think that I got the right answer, and I didn't want to just come out and be like,
and sorry,
hey,
it's not you saying that you wanted a different answer. It's that you didn't actually get an answer to your question.
Yeah.
You didn't get the wrong answer.
No,
you didn't get an actual answer to your question.
And I thought for a second I should have said, I could have said, okay, that didn't really answer my question at all. But I thought, okay, you know what? I'm just going to word this exact same question differently and ask it again and see what he says. And it caught him off guard a little bit, I think, but it's like that's kind of what I meant to do there, because it was one of those spots where you ask a question and I looked at it. It was, I think, 4.5 minutes was the answer.
Yeah.
About a question about negativity in the fan base. And it to me, it wasn't an answer that sufficed my question. And listen, my question wasn't perfect either. I'll be honest, I kind of fumbled my words a little bit on the first question and kind of on the second one as well. I didn't do a great job of asking that question, but I feel like the point was still across there. And it's going to be interesting to see. I mean, the thought of the retool thing where this team can contend in 2 years, and they mentioned it multiple times yesterday in the press conference of this isn't a quick fix. Can you, I'm curious what their thoughts of a quick fix is. Is a quick fix 6 months? Right? Because to me, a quick fix is 1 to 2 years in the NHL with everything that's going on and the way that they talk about how difficult it is to move money. And I think this is something that not only they talk about, but the whole NHL is talking about it, how difficult it is to move money. Quick fixes to me is 1 to 2 years. Right? Am I wrong? Then the thought that that's when they think they can contend is, when Drance asked this question last week at Rutherford, he said 3 years. He's like, oh, yeah, quicker than that.
Maybe that was partly why Rutherford needs to zip it. That's why, right. And I'm not trying to say, this is Rutherford's fault. I'm just saying, maybe that was one of the comments that Alvin was kind of like, hey, what the hell, man? You putting a 3-year timeline on this?
Yeah.
We didn't talk about that.
No, and that's what I thought was just that is a quick fix. Unless their thought of a quick fix is
buy at the deadline and turn this thing around.
Seriously though, is a quick fix in their eyes the thought of Rick Tocchet being the quick fix that's going to get this team to be a contender now?
Maybe genuinely that's probably what they meant when Tocchet asked, "Is this a quick fix?" He probably means can I come in and fix things? That's probably what Tocchet meant. Is this roster capable of that? And Alvin, you hope, said no, this roster isn't capable of that yet, but we want to start implementing good habits even before we have time to fix the roster. Again, I don't want to spend too much time on this. I want to talk about this first practice. Before we do, though, I quickly want to get Corey Anderson summed it up really well here, I think, in the chat on the Bruce Boudreau thing. He said, I think we're all in agreement. The results warranted moving on to a new coach. Could have been handled better. Yep. End of story.
Sure, I like that.
I think that's what we all should kind of come to here. Obviously, there's the track record of the Canucks and the organization,
and like we said,
that's what people talk about.
If you want to hear all the Boudreau stuff, just the emergency podcast is out. That's immediately when it came down.
Yeah, I think we're done here. I think we're done chatting about Bruce Boudreau for now. So I want to quickly get to this practice before we get to Frank here, brought to you by Zephyr Epic.
Good folks.
Promo code hockey season, capital H, capital S, all one word. That'll get you $5 off your order at zephyrepic.com, ZEPHYR Epic. All of our guests brought to you over there. So go check them out. I quickly want to get this in. We had this practice today with Rick Tocchet. You quickly mentioned Adam Foote, Sergei Gonchar. Sergei Gonchar is obviously not going to be here every day, but Sergei Gonchar was here today, and he was working with the defenseman. One thing I noticed real quick, Adam Foote still has a bomb of a shot. He was working at he took a 50% effort slapper. And that thing, you know how you talk in Abbotsford sometimes, you see AHL defenseman, how the shot dies before it gets to the net?
Yeah.
That one zipped right by Spencer Martin's head. And it wasn't like he was aiming for his head. He missed the net, but he still was 50%, and it just pinged the glass. It was unbelievable. He still got a bomb of a shot, that Adam Foote.
I think those guys are going to help.
the main thing I want to get to while we wait for Frank here is the lines. The lines were a little bit different today, and I thought that was really interesting as Alex pulls them up here. For those on the podcast, you've seen them if you read Canucks Army. We'll have the morning skate article out. But Sadnika, Horvat, Besser, Dries, Miller, Garland, Mikheyev, Pettersson, Kuzmenko, and then Joshua Lazar, Lockwood, Lane Peterson is the extra there. I don't want to get too into the defense pairings. What I really want to talk about here is that we talked about yesterday how, and maybe some of this was off air, but we talked about how, you know what, it really seems like Rick Tocchet has his philosophies, and it's basically going to be, I'm going to apply these philosophies, and the team is going to have to get fixed to be able to play under this structure and under this method, right? Like, that's what it feels like to me, because, you know, they don't shy away from saying, yeah, there's problems on this roster, but, you know, you look at what he's doing. He wants to roll 4 lines. He wants to limit Quinn Hughes' ice time. He wants to limit Elias Pettersson's penalty killing time. I think he's going to quickly find out that when you do that, you lose a lot of games. And for those on Team Tank, I don't think you can complain too much. And with that, let's get to Frank Seravalli. I'll pick that up after, because I realized I had more to say there.
I thought you were transitioning from Team Tank to Frank Seravalli there.
No.
Okay.
No. We'll talk about it after. Frank Seravalli of Daily Faceoff joining us. Frank, how are you doing?
I'm good. I mean, Team Tank, some people call me Frank the Tank. Like, I'm on board for whatever.
That's kind of the feeling Canucks fans have right now. I mean, with everything that's gone on, they feel like they're on board for whatever else at this point. But Frank's brought to you by the great folks there at Zephyr Epic. Tell you what, the Pokemon, the hockey cards, everything. I got my Pokemon cards right here. The good stuff over there, Zephyr Epic. Check them out. Promo code what? Hockey season?
Yeah, that's the promo code.
Thank you. I'm not a promo code guy, but hockey season, $50. What's the deal here? Free shipping?
Just ask Frank a question, man.
Frank.
What? Why? Wait, hold on. I got to ask you, why are you not a promo code guy? Like, it saves you money.
I don't know. I know. I'm a promo code guy, but I'm a forget the promo codes. I'm a 15% here, 5% here, 25% on your first delivery here. I don't know what's going on with these things.
He's just, Faber's he's got it just like that he's like, whatever. I don't need promo codes.
Yeah, well, that's what I'm saying. I got it like that. Frank, listen, the weekend here that we just had in Vancouver was something for the ages for, I think, the hockey world and hockey news in general. It's been a long time here building up. Heard a really interesting comment this morning that I wanted to kind of bring up. Was like, Jason Bruss said this morning, and I know you join them in the mornings a lot. Said, like, this is probably the most news you've seen around the Vancouver Canucks since the 2011 Stanley Cup playoffs, right? Like, this consistent news cycle that Vancouver's produced. How did you see things ending here with Bruce Boudreau to kind of start? Like, what are your initial thoughts on how this whole thing was handled with, you know, the media availability on Sunday, just everything that happened this week? And there's so much, I don't even know where to start and ask you. So just your initial thoughts from the outside looking in.
Yeah, I would say, like, for me, the biggest thing what was most jarring watching the press conference on Sunday was that I actually felt bad for Rick Tocchet. Like, here he is, this new guy. I know no one's ever trampling on the guy that was outgoing, and there's always a certain amount of deference and respect to any mid-season coaching change. But here he is, what's supposed to be sort of a, hey, I'm back in the game. This is exciting. I'm going to a new market. He's never coached in Canada before. And it's like this awesome moment that he spends the first 5 questions or so of the press conference essentially ducking for cover because the Vancouver Canucks are just getting absolutely pelted, and rightfully so. I mean, the way that this was handled, I would just say the biggest thing, a lot of people would say embarrassing. I would say unnecessary. It didn't need to play out this way. There's a lot of factors that I think went into it. There probably are a number of people in the Vancouver Canucks front office today that are cursing Bruce Boudreau, saying like, oh, what a drama queen. Can't believe that this, he played it up so much and things like that. I would say the other part of it is like, look, there's only one way to treat people, and it's the right way. And I think this has been a stain on the Canucks, and it's going to be a stain on Jim Rutherford's legacy when it's all said and done. This 3-time Stanley Cup winning general manager, president of hockey ops now in Vancouver, I think he's universally respected. I've known Jim for a long time and someone that I would say is a true pro to deal with. But you know what? Like, there's other factors in play that I think complicate this that have made it extraordinarily difficult, and it didn't need to be this way.
And we spent a whole episode yesterday, did an emergency podcast to talk about this right after the firing, I guess up to this point you can call it. The thing is, like, and we're seeing it in our chat, nobody wants us to spend more time on this because we just spent time on this for the last 2 months, right? Like that's a crazy thing. So I do want to turn the page here. Rick Tocchet comes in here. We talked about obviously the press conference that he had, but what are the Canucks getting with this coach? Maybe that's different from Bruce Boudreau.
Well, that's different. I think he just has a different air about him, a different personality. Bruce is sort of a happy-go-lucky, funny, irreverent, really fun guy to be around. And I'd say Tocchet is direct. He is genuine. He's honest. He's a straight shooter. He's to the point. I've known Rick Tocchet when I first started my career a couple years in when he was between jobs. He did TV in Philadelphia that I did with him for a while, and getting to know him, he's someone that I think players really like and trust because you always know where you stand. It's an open door. He's going to look you right in the eye and tell you exactly how he feels. And he's someone that with his success, both as a player, not just the fight totals, but also the points and the games played, the Stanley Cup, the Stanley Cups as an assistant coach. His resume certainly demands respect, and he's got a real structured way of doing things. Like nothing is on accident. He spends a lot of time thinking about practice plans and systems, and he talks to a lot of people around the league, what works and what doesn't work. And so he's always thinking about hockey, always talking about hockey, and he's always engaged. And so, you might be getting a text from him at, 10 or 11 o'clock at night, thinking about some kind of, system or setup. Like that's how he operates. And what was lacking, at least from the Vancouver management perspective, was Patrick Allvin and Jim Rutherford got there last year having inherited Bruce Boudreau, and they were like, what is this? What are we seeing here? This practice is garbage. This game is unstructured. The way this team plays doesn't work for us. So that has been a thorn in their side for a really long time. And they've wanted to make a change. And until recently, they didn't have a green light to do so. And I think that's a really important thing to point out. I'm not absolving anyone here with this mess. Everyone's going to wear it, and the organization has a black eye from it. But I think just like in anything in life, it starts at the top. And for me, when you have a general manager and a president of hockey ops that quite clearly for a long time have wanted to make a change and haven't been able to, I think that's where you start to see a lot of this unravel.
Yeah, absolutely. And I guess the question a lot of people have, and you just talked about kind of the differences between Boudreau and Tocchet. How many similarities do you think we're going to see with the late stage Travis Green teams that the Canucks were running here with defensive systems that maybe couldn't score as much? How many similarities do you think there is between Travis Green and Rick Tocchet?
Hard to say. I mean, I'm trying to I do have the Travis Green teams in my mind. I also am trying to think of the last ones I saw from Tocchet in Arizona. Maybe some similarities, but it's a difficult question to answer because it's mostly different personnel. There's a couple pieces from Arizona that are obviously in Vancouver now, and not just Ekman Larsson, but also Luke Schenn. But it's definitely detail oriented is what I would say.
And the thought process, and again, put the PR aside, put how bad the situation ended up turning out, all that, put it aside. The thought process of bringing in a coach midseason. Do you like the thought process and just the hiring in general for the Canucks to make this change?
I would say to remove where this team is at in its competitive cycle, in a general sense, yes, I do like it. And I point to the Calgary Flames a few years back when Daryl Sutter took over mid-season. Kind of a lost year. They thought that they should be more competitive. They make the coaching change late in the year. It was much later than this, I think. And you're like, well, why do that? And they were able to get assimilated and find out what Daryl Sutter was looking for. And then they hit the ground running the next season and went on to win the Pacific Division. However, I would say in this case, I don't know how much sense it makes. For one, this is, if you're on Team Tank, and we just talked about this, you don't want to be piling up more wins than you should and be inching closer to 20th place instead of 32nd. You're not making the playoffs most likely regardless, especially not with some of the teams like Colorado really beginning to rev it up. And so that, I think, further damages you in the now. When it comes to next season, I would say the coaching change is mostly beneficial, but probably not in this case because so few of the players that are here right now will also be there then. What's the number we're talking about? 60%, 50% of the same players? You know, in a perfect world for the Canucks, whether it's through trade or buyout or whatever it may be, they don't want a lot of the same group back to gain cap flexibility. So I guess what I'm saying here is I think Rick Tocchet is a great hire. I just don't really understand, and it brings me back to the unnecessary word. I don't understand why this needed to happen. Like, you could have, in a perfect world, just got through the rest of the year with Bruce Boudreau, and even from an ownership pocketbook perspective, just paid Bruce Boudreau, then Travis Green will be off the books. Then you can move forward next season with Rick Tocchet if you want to. I don't know, just my thoughts. Maybe there's something else in play that I don't know about, which I think you always have to allow for.
Frank, last week when Jim Rutherford had his press conference about Tanner Pearson, it evolved into a state of the franchise, really, obviously. Spent a lot of time in that situation. He mentioned there when Thomas Durant asked him a question that, when he gave him a 3-year timeline, he said, oh, it's going to be quicker than that. And then at this one that we talked yesterday, we've heard again multiple times. We've heard this all season. This isn't a quick fix here in Vancouver. In my eyes, and we just talked about this off the top of the show, a quick fix is 1 to 2 years. So what does this team need to do to have a successful retool? Or do you think that's impossible and this needs to be a straight up rebuild? Maybe you can keep Pettersson and Hughes still at this point in the rebuild, but how does this team have success in a rebuild or a retool? Sorry.
Well, what it involves, and I think I haven't listened super closely, but I've heard clips from Thomas Drance and others who have sort of picked through this theory, is that it basically involves you winning 100% of your trades. That's really what it comes down to, is that there can't be any misses. And it's much different, I think, in a rebuild, because you know that you're not going to hit on all your draft picks, and you're kind of going in with that thought process of let's assemble as many as we can so that the ones that don't pan out don't absolutely cripple us. And to do it in this case, let's just pick a random destination. And I was going through this today with Bo Horvat, and there seemed to be some further reporting that, hey, maybe Bo Horvat likes what it's like under Rick Tocchet and decides to reconsider. And maybe that's possible, but I don't see the Canucks, based on Jim Rutherford's comments, substantially changing the offer that they made. And frankly, I don't even know why it would make sense. Although I certainly think that having Horvat back makes more sense over Kuzmenko from the long-term perspective. But when it comes to doing this correctly, you need to look at teams that are going to give, it's a totally different way of how teams have traditionally done this, selling off pieces, which is almost every team that you're trading with is keeping all of the good, really good prospects and NHL ready players that they have in their system. So let's throw Carolina out there and work through the exercise from the Bo Horvat perspective. They're not trading you Netchash. They're not trading you Seth Jarvis. So you're looking at Kotkaniemi probably, who has a long-term deal, 8 years and almost $5 million and is on pace for 30 goals as a center. Some may view him as a reclamation project worth taking on. I don't know. But then you're looking at prospects who are not NHL ready, that are way further down the depth chart, that are second-round picks and high third-round picks that you're hoping to then convert to your team. And all I'm saying is, if you're going through the retool process, you're getting let's just hypothetically, instead of draft picks, 3 players back for Bo Horvat. You got to go 3 for 3. There cannot be any hiccups here in the process. And so I just think it's possible, but it allows for a lot less room for error.
Exactly. It's much more risk involved with these guys because listen, the players that you're getting maybe at the 22 to 24 age range probably haven't worked out with the other team. So it's like instead of getting 2 shots and drafting a guy, of having 2 shots of him working out, or maybe you flip him at 22 to a team that does want to do one of these retools. You're missing out on that strike. You're going up to the plate with 2 strikes against you at that point. And that was something that I questioned yesterday to Patrick Allvin was the process. I said, that's what I think a lot of Canucks fans have the problem with, whether it be the last, you can look at the last 10 years since they were, President's Cup, when they won the President's Trophy back in 2012. You can look at the process that's gotten you to this point of this is a team that we can turn around quickly with Jim Benning. Now you're kind of hearing a lot of similar things. The question that I had to Patrick Allvin is one I want to ask you. Should the Canucks trust this management group with their process of getting them back to being a contending team?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know why it would be any different with this one than with any other one that you're going to hire. Like Patrick Allvin has made his bones as a scouting director. Like he's someone that has an eye for talent evaluation. Jim Rutherford has made his bones on the art of the deal and pulling off transactions. And so you would think that the two of those guys married together, along with a solid staff, would be able to make some headway in that. I don't think it's a question of, is this the right management staff? I think it's a question of, is this the right direction? It's not necessarily the people in place. It's the orders that they're given to then march to. And so if you have, again, this is my belief, that it's coming from ownership, that you need to be competitive every year and you need to do whatever you can to get into the playoffs or whatever it may be, it drives your entire philosophy. And so what you end up having is basically the final year of the Jim Benning era. He makes those trades where they kick the can down the road and are now saddled with all of this, they trade a bunch of bad contracts where they could survive one more year and finally get the freedom, to then now being in this hell all over again because they're trying to paper over it. It was like, instead of punting on 1 year, you've now punted on 3 or 4. And so it's backed everything up at a time when that to me is like the most critical issue from the Canucks over the last decade. That's where this totally fell off the rails, is that you've now really crushed and wasted 3 to 4 years of Elias Pettersson and Quinn Hughes and Thatcher Demko in net because you've had this mandate to be better in the short term as opposed to the long term. And it's really put this team further back, that whether it was Benning or whether it's now Rutherford and Allvin, it doesn't really matter to me who's driving the bus, because if someone has some strings tied to the top of the bus and can pick it up and put it on a different road, well, then that doesn't really matter who's behind the wheel.
Yeah, it's brand new cabinets on a house that has no structure. That's what's been unfortunate. I got to get some rapid fire ones in here for you, Frank, before we let you go. I want to say over under. Do the Canucks get more or less in a trade for Andrei Kuzmenko than a second round pick and a B-level prospect? Is the return higher or lower than that?
I am going to say the same. How about that?
I didn't give you that option, Frank.
Yeah, but I don't think it's going to be more than that. I also don't think it's going to be much less.
All right, fair enough. Bo Horvat, sounds like things are heating up. Obviously, there wasn't a great comment about it when asked from Patrick Allvin on the situation. Do you think this is the first one that gets done of potentially Luke Schenn, Kuzmenko, Horvat? Those are the 3 kind of big trade chips in Vancouver. Is it Horvat getting done first here, this market?
I think it makes sense to handle that one first. I try and understand how imminent it is, and I don't think very. Obviously, it's heated up in a big way, and the number of teams that have been involved has grown, and I think everyone has an understanding and a real base level knowledge of which teams are in and which teams are out. But it doesn't feel like it's like this is happening tomorrow, if that makes any sense.
Fair enough. Final question. Alex, I'm going to need you to pull up the photo of the taco from Montana's. Is this taco ridiculously large, Frank? We've been arguing about this. I swear this is the meatiest taco I might have ever seen in my life. Alex, can you pull up this Montana's taco on the Tuesdays there? I think there's too much meat in here almost.
I've never met a taco where there's not enough meat. Here's the thing, Faber. I've seen enough tacos where there's too little meat. And that would concern me because I think one of the real joys of eating a taco is getting to mop up everything after the fact and really like enjoy it with a fork. And so I don't know. That's not an issue for me. I'm way more into the half price wings on Monday though.
I tell you, I was ready to blast him when I heard $5 for a taco until I saw the size of this damn thing and comparing it to the slice of a lime. Anyways,
it is $5 Canadian as well. So this is
absolutely. You know what, Frank? I think you have better things to do. Maybe we'll let you go.
Enjoy the half price wing night, guys.
Will do. Appreciate it, Frank. We'll chat with you soon. Have a good one.
Frank Seravalli, courtesy of our friends over at Zephyr Epic. They've got you covered for all of your trading card needs. Be sure to go check them out. ZEPHYR Epic. Follow them on all platforms. I think this is a record. In the live chat, we've got 110 people watching right now.
Good.
I think that's a record high. So with the eyes of a nation upon us, I went to Popeyes this weekend. I went to Popeyes for the first time. It was delicious. I want to go back to this chat because I want to get this out about Rick Tocchet. I have this idea, and again, maybe this is the best case scenario, but I have this idea and this hope based on Rick Tocchet's intro press conference, based on the line rushes we saw at practice today. I have this hope that Tocchet comes in and because there's no pressure to win games, right? That he comes in, says, we're going to run 4 lines. Yeah, JT Miller, you're paid to be a center on this team, and you're going to start back checking, okay? I have this idea and this hope that Rick Tocchet is just going to apply all of the things that he talked about, running 4 lines, decreasing Hughes' ice time, getting Pettersson and Hughes off the penalty kill, whatever. And I know those guys want to kill penalties. It's a longer conversation. I have this hope that he just does all these things that sound great in theory because they're great hockey takes, I think. I think he came across really well from a pure hockey perspective yesterday. I have this hope that he applies all those. Everybody, including management and ownership, get to see just how far this team is from being able to actually play with the structure that we're seeing. Because
interesting.
We've talked about this before. We've seen the Canucks try and play with structure. We saw it, and that's what led to Travis Green getting fired, right? Like, they tried to play a more structured game because the defense wasn't good enough. Obviously, there was things that could have been done better, I think, by Travis, but I think it's going to become clear to everybody, and when I say everybody, I mean the most important people, the most important decision makers here. I think it's going to become clear just how far off this team is, and I think that is a good thing because I think you're going to lose a lot of games. Like, I don't think the Canucks are going to get this dead cat bounce that we keep talking about. Like, they might win a couple games. They've got some weak opponents. They have the 3rd easiest schedule to close out the rest of the season, so they're going to pick up some wins.
Yeah, for sure.
But I think for the most part, if Tocchet just sticks by what he said here, because Bruce was brought in to get wins, right? Like, Bruce wasn't here to, Bruce, we need you to get us to the next step of the organization. We're trying to retool here. No, Bruce was brought in, get us wins. Like, we think we can win with this lineup and we're not winning. And Bruce did that. He got them wins, but it wasn't sustainable without the hot goaltender.
And there was some interesting thoughts today from Jannik Hansen, who, listen, if the Canucks could use the type of player and multiply him by 6, throw him into your bottom 6, it's the Jannik Hansen type of player. That's the type of player that I bet would thrive under this proposed defensive system that we're going to hear from Rick Tocchet. And what Hansen said today on Donnie and Dolly was bang on. It was like the Canucks just don't have those players. Like, they don't have, and it's funny, he wasn't talking about himself, but as he was talking about those type of players, I was thinking of the players that he was, like the player that Jannik Hansen was for this team. Yeah. The guy that's going to be going out there. How many guys on this Canucks team, think about it, like really solid penalty killers or just guys that are strong in their defensive zone? Like, I think Elias Pettersson does an incredible job.
Mikheyev.
I think Mikheyev is the other one. Who's number 3? At a guy who really can be trusted defensively in his own zone that's on this roster. And I'll even bring up defensemen as well, right? Sure. Like anybody in this roster, can you really say like that guy is a solid NHL defending player? And I'm not just talking about defensemen. I'm talking about forwards, defensemen, everyone. Like, I don't know. Like, Shen does a pretty good job of bodying, but he also, listen, there's foot
Doesn't
speed
have the
issues.
foot speed, yeah.
He doesn't have, like, he's got a pretty good stick. He's very physical. He's a good guy to have in the bottom of your, but like, yeah, I think when you get into the structure of this new way that wants to be played by Jim Rutherford and Patrick Allvin, the way that they want to see their hockey team play, they're going to look at this roster and say, wow, there's not a lot of pieces that make sense for that.
But I think they know that is the thing that I'm trying to say is I have this idea that, look, Jack Studnicka's on the first line, right? I think they're going to see, and I think they already know that. Like when Rutherford says major surgery is needed on this roster, I don't take that lightly. Like, I think he's looking at this and saying, yeah, our team's not good enough, but at least build the right habits. And I think that's what they want. And I think that's what they're going to accomplish with this coaching change. Again, I think everybody wants them to lose a lot of games, but like, here's the thing is if you lose games and you're a high-flying team and you score a ton, that's fun. But if you're losing games, but you're playing the right way, quote unquote, the right way, I also think people like that too.
Yeah, because I think if you play the right way, you're going to find players that fit into playing the right way where you're actually going to have good success down the road. Listen, Podkolzin didn't work great under Bruce Boudreau this season. Was he put into a role where he was really able to play to his strengths? Like, I think Podkolzin is an excellent defending forward, right? We talked about guys on this roster that can do that. I think that's something that Podkolzin, if under the right structure and the right coaching staff, can be a very good defensive forward. I think he can be that type that Jannik Hansen was talking about today, where is there anyone that's going out there and willing to, lose chicklets as they block a shot on the penalty kill? I think Podkolzin's that type of guy. I think Podkolzin's going to be back up here in the NHL very soon. I think you're going to see a guy probably, and I saw the chat, I think Ben Lipka was in the chat earlier asking, I think Lane Peterson's going down very soon here because I just don't think he's the type of guy who's going to fit long-term with this new coaching staff. I think Podkolzin's going to be up here very soon because I think that's the player who's going to fit this structure that we're going to see from Rick Tocchet. And I think he's going to be a guy that's going to thrive under that structure quite a bit. And that's going to be an interesting thing to see. So I think Podkolzin's coming up soon. I think he's getting into the lineup very soon. That'll be something that I'm very much looking forward to following. But now at the other time, and we said this on the emergency show yesterday, now there is no excuse for the plan to be swayed from that we've been given by Jim Rutherford about a retool, right?
Yep.
Rutherford has his GM, he has his coach, he has his AGMs, he has everybody in place now. Now this is whatever they're indicating to fans, to media, to the hockey world on what this team's goal is. They should 100% be judged for that because now there's no excuse of, yeah, but this isn't his coach, right? There's no more excuses for them and the plan that they lay out. It needs to be successful for them to say that they're doing a good job. If their plan that they lay out to everybody, and the fan base should know, the fans should know what they should be judging this management group off of. And if they don't do a good job of that, then that's on them. Like, that is on the upper management group now. Now you can't have any other blame. There's still a roster that needs to be changed, right? That's why I look at this and I think it can't be a quick fix in 2 years because there's too many things on this roster that are going to be too difficult to move in the next 18 months. You're not moving OEL in the next 18 months.
Nope.
You still have a Tyler Myers under contract. During most of those 18 months, his contract will be up in 18 months, which, good for a lot of Canucks fans to hear. I think that money-wise, I know you're going to miss him big time. But that's why I can't see it happening within the 2 years here. Like, there's so much that still needs to be done. And it's like they've said, this management group has talked about major surgery.
Yep.
Major surgery to an NHL roster is not a 1 to 2 year thing. Not in the cap era. So that's what I worry about this team and the way that they've laid out thinking that they can be real competitive in 3 years. I find it very difficult to actually happen. And I wish nothing but the world that I am dead wrong. I want to see this Canucks team be successful. I think the fan base deserves it. I think everybody's showing up to these games and being disappointed when they leave Rogers Arena. They deserve better. Everybody online, everybody in this chat, people listening to this podcast, I want those people to be not only happy with the team and the way that they're going, but I want them to be at a point where, like, if you go out and you're a hockey fan and you're just chatting, say you put 32 fans in a room, everybody's laughing at the Canucks fan. That sucks. You should be proud of the team that you're a fan of. And it sucks that if you were to take every team, even the Seattle Kraken that just came into this league, they're pointing up at Vancouver and they're laughing at that fan. That sucks for the Vancouver fan base who doesn't deserve that.
On the topic of running four lines, and you just brought up the Seattle Kraken, really good point in the chat here from Kevin Punter. Watching how much success Seattle and New Jersey are having rolling all four lines makes me want to see it in Vancouver. It can't be good having all your best forwards playing 20 minutes every night. Again, from a pure hockey perspective, that's a good take. I agree with that, and Tocchet said that yesterday. Now, Corey Anderson, right below it, said the third line for the Canucks in their last cup run was Hansen, Malhotra, Higgins. We don't have anything anywhere near that, and he's bang on.
And I think what Corey wanted to bring up there, because I feel like we were talking about the time, is how good defensively are you thinking with Hansen, Malhotra, Higgins? What a great defensive third line. Those guys all killed penalties. Malhotra was an absolute fiend in the faceoff dot. Like that group there, I love it. I think that's something there. Okay, I know, but we're gonna run a little late. I'm sorry, Alex. I gotta show this fight. Okay, I gotta show this fight from the AHL. Alex Canuck-Leipert versus Adam Klapka, a 6'8" guy against a 5'11" guy. Just gotta show this. This is incredible. People loved this online. So Canuck-Leipert, you can see he's from Thailand. Good kid out there. Now it's for former captain of the Vancouver Giants, facing off against a guy 9 inches taller than him. And I tell you, in the stat book, they say Canuck-Leipert's 5'11". I don't know. I've stood beside him. I don't know if he's even 5'11". Klapka, I know he's about 6'8". He's a monster. I've walked by him in Penticton. And Canuck-Leipert sticking it in here and just absolutely going at Klapka. A hell of a fight. A lot of heart in this kid. Everybody who saw him play out of the LEC, they know Canuck-Leipert, great to have out there. Has not been playing a lot now. He's been healthy scratch a lot this season, but tell you, when they get into the lineup, they love this kid. And I know the organization really likes him as well. I got one more clip I want to get to as well, just from Vasily Podkolzin scoring on the weekend. Matt, I've had this other news that I got to drop. It's going to come in tomorrow's prospect update again. I got some stuff I want to talk about here. I'll get to it eventually, but we'll run the Podkolzin goal. Really nice, sharp angle. I think this kid's coming up here pretty soon. I don't know about Höglander. I think he's going to rock with that Swedish House Mafia for a little bit, but Podkolzin, tell you what, get him up here, get him under, working with Tocchet. I'd like to see it very soon. Good? Betway,
let's go.
Okay, let's go. Betway. Pull it up here. Our bets of the day as we wrap up. And by the way, I see you mentioned a lot of people in the chat. Great to see a lot of people here on the YouTube live Monday to Friday, 1:00 every day. You'll see us there Monday to Friday. I guess that's not every day, is it? People say that every day. That's Monday to Friday. You can say every day. You talk about Monday to Friday. Anyways, 1:00. See y'all as we rock through here. Betway bets of the day. Islanders, Leafs, got some bets here. Dobson over 2.5 shots on net, -134. $10 bet gets you $17.50 over there on Betway. And then the Leafs to win and Mitch Marner to score 2 or more points. Quads, in the last 5 Toronto Maple Leaf wins, how many of those 5 wins has Mitch Marner had 2 or more points in?
5.
No, 3. So $10 bet, that'll get you $27.50 there over on Betway.
All right, we'll wrap it up there. 19 plus play. If you play responsibly. All right. Our thanks to Frank Seravalli, of course, brought to you by Zephyr Epic. We'll close it out there. We'll talk tomorrow. We got a game to talk about tomorrow. Preview the game at least.
I tell you, it better be an early. I swear, they morning skate at 12.
The Travis days are back.
Ugh.
You're already seeing similarities. Travis used to have those long practices, and Rick starting with the long practices.
Yeah,
anyways, we'll close it out there. For my co-host, Chris Faber, and our technical producer, Alex Lard, our thanks to Frank Seravalli once again for joining us. My name is David Quadrelli. Thank you so much for listening to another episode of the Canucks Conversation.
Word of the day, internecine. Didn't say it, but I said it at the end there. Nobody got it. Okay, see you guys. Have a good one.
Thanks for listening to Canucks Conversation, delivered by DoorDash. Hit the subscribe button to never miss an episode.
How about keep it to